所以我鼓励你们给彭默先生你们的大力支持，投彭默先生的票，投人民行动党的票。谢谢大家。Dear residents of Congolese, we have come through a very rough 5 years together. We came through the biggest crisis in 70 years. We had a big roller coaster ride. Michael Palmer brought you to Universal Studios to sit on a big roller coaster. So you sit on a roller coaster, you go boom down, then you go boom up again. You come back roughly to the same level as before, but your stomach is still little bit upset and you're a little bit giddy because of the rough ride. And this is in fact what has happened in the last 5 years. Our economy went through a very deep recession. We were staring at minus 10% growth. And then last year, to everybody's great surprise, we had 14.5% growth. It was an amazing turnaround which nobody really expected. So it was a huge roller coaster ride. So I can understand that Singaporeans feel a little bit disorientated from this. And many of our markets, property market, so on, have not fully settled down from this big gyration that we've had. It will settle down, but it's not yet done so. We came through this crisis because we were able to put together a package of measures very quickly and very decisively with the confidence and trust of the people in order to deal with the immediate concerns and give us the foundation to bounce back so quickly. I give you this example. We had jobs credit. We debated it back and forth very seriously. We had a special credit scheme for companies, and we debated it back and forth very thoroughly because this was the first time ever that we had to draw on the reserves of our country, the reserves that we built up over so many years for a rainy day. And finally, this big rainy day had come, and we debated whether we should touch those reserves, and we said yes, we should. So we put in these plans. 100,000 employers, companies, benefited from this, and 1.4 million Singaporean workers. And this saved many, many companies and saved many, many jobs. And this was one important reason why we were able to bounce back so quickly from the recession. If you imagine that during the deepest part of the recession, companies closed down, workers were fired and lost their jobs, when the recovery came and orders came back from overseas, the companies would not be there to pick up the orders. The workers would not be there to fulfill those orders immediately. It would have taken time, maybe a year or two, for the economy to come back. But because we had jobs credit, we had the special credit schemes for our companies. The companies were there. The workers were there, being trained to be more productive. So when the orders came back, the companies were able to respond quickly, and the recovery was quick and fast. Although workers suffered pay cuts during this period, we managed to keep unemployment low. And this saved many families in Singapore hardship and difficulties, even though many families had to tighten their belts. So this is one example where by working together, having a strong government, being able to act decisively, we were able to deal with the biggest economic crisis the world had seen in 70 years and come through better than almost any other country. Other small island countries like Iceland and Ireland have been set back for at least 10 years. The governments are bankrupt. They have to borrow from international organizations like the IMF and the World Bank. And the people will be subject to heavy debt repayment for years to come, affecting the present generation and their children. So the unity of the people, the ability to act decisively is important in a crisis. And we don't know what crisis will face us in the coming years. In the last 10 years, we faced so many different crises. September 11, 2001. Who would have expected that aeroplanes would crash into the World Trade Center towers in New York and kill 3,000 over people? Who would have expected SARS? Who would have expected not just one tsunami, but two tsunamis that killed tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, all within the last 10 years? Then there was a volcanic eruption in Iceland, which stopped all the airline flights in Western Europe for days. I cannot pronounce the name of the volcano, but stopped all the flights for weeks. All these uncertainties happened just in the last 10 years. And can we predict what will happen in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? We can make a guess and prepare ourselves for some of these eventualities. But exactly what will happen is hard to tell. So we need to continue to have a good, strong government, united people, in order to be able to respond to such crises. Keep our people together, keep them secure, and be ready to progress beyond the crisis as quickly as possible. During an election, many issues come up together. All the unhappinesses, the issues which we think the government should do better with, all come to the fore and gain great prominence. Everyone has a view on what could have been done better. And there are certainly many things that can be done better. And the PAP government tries to do its best for the people. But it's a difficult job to balance so many interests. I give you one simple example. The last few days, and it's not just in the last few days, I mean, this is feedback we've been getting for 1-2 years already. Some Singaporeans say there are too many foreigners here in Singapore. But on the other hand, our small and medium enterprises say, we can't get workers. We can't survive. My restaurant has to close. My machine shop has to close. What do you want me to do? This is my livelihood. My family depends on it. You must give me more workers. So how do we balance these two? Let me say this in Chinese also. 我们要稳定很多的需求。有些新加坡人说，我们有太多外来的劳工在新加坡，所以政府应该控制这个外来劳工的数目。但是你们知道，这个中小企业，他们说，如果我没有劳工外来的劳工，我请不到新加坡人，我的咖啡店啊，我的工厂啊，怎样会继续做生意？这个是我的家庭的饭碗，所以政府要平衡这两方面的需求，这个是不容易的，因为我们控制太大，我们这中小企业都不能活 ，cannot breathe。如果我们放宽太宽，这个也是会影响到我们新加坡人在几方面，所以这个是作为这个政府也是不容易。And there are many such dilemmas that the government faces. The policy choices are not easy ones. This is just one simple example. The housing market is another one. If we allow the housing market to grow too quickly and the property prices crash, I have no doubt the finger will be pointed at the government. If we don't build fast enough and the demand grows too quickly, the government also has to take responsibility and the blame. But at each point in time, the information available is not perfect. And we have to make the decisions on the best information that we have available and make the adjustments as we go along. And this, the government will continue to do in the best interest of Singaporeans and Singapore. Each time we act, each time we make a decision, we always consider the interests of Singapore and Singaporeans first. There's no other reason why we would take a decision other than in the interests of Singapore and Singaporeans. The measures we take are also not short-term ones, because we also have to think in the long term. You can take a short-term measure, which is very popular, makes people happy for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe even half a month or 6 months, people are happy. But after that, you begin to suffer the consequences of these decisions 3 years, 5 years down the road. And you can see this in a number of different countries, where you take popular measures, free this or free that, free medical, free transport, subsidize this, subsidize that. And then after a few years, the government has no more money in the budget. They have to find the money somewhere. They have to either borrow it, or raise taxes, or other things. In Singapore, because we've been able to manage the economy well, we are in a wonderful position of being able to increase spending on education, our schools, our kindergartens, our universities, our polytechnics, our ITE, all across the sector, so that all Singaporean children have the opportunity of having the best possible education they can have. In many of the developed countries today, they are facing the opposite problem, because they have not had budget discipline in the past, and they are now having to cut back on teachers, cut back on medical care, cut back on subsidies, to the detriment of the students and the people. When I went to university in the UK in the 1970s, it was free for British students. And in fact, if you're a British student and you go to university, you get an allowance. So it's very comfortable. But today, British university fees are £9,000 per year. £9,000 per year for British students, not overseas students. British students, £9,000. That's more than 18,000 Singapore dollars per year for British students. And that is because over the years, they have not managed the finances in the correct way, allowed the sector to grow too quickly, not provided necessarily the best value for money in each of the universities and the courses and the programs. So now university students in Britain, British university students, have to pay £9,000 a year, more than $18,000 Singapore per year to go to university. So one has to take a long-term view and manage carefully. And we want to make sure that Singapore and Singaporeans and their families can have more opportunities to upgrade themselves, their education, give their children the best that they can. Let me now talk a little bit about our local situation here in Punggol East. We have worked together as part of Pasir Ris-Punggol GRC for the last 10 years. And it's been a wonderful time. I've really enjoyed myself working with our residents here, with our grassroots leaders. We've enjoyed many wonderful functions together. Mr. Michael Palmer has been a tremendous colleague, contributing many things to our GRC. And I really felt sad to see Punggol East become a single-member constituency. But on the other hand, I felt very proud also that Punggol East is now a single-member constituency. In a way, it has grown up into an adult of its own. And as the anchor minister in Pasir Ris-Punggol GRC, I'm very happy to see that too. And that Michael Palmer is now able to lead Punggol East on his own if you give him your support. As I said, I've known Michael for more than 10 years. Apart from his profession as a lawyer, Michael is a really very nice person, and you know him well. He's very approachable. He speaks Malay. He speaks Chinese. He speaks a few words of Tamil from time to time. And I think his English is not bad also. He is a person who cares for you. I have come down to Punggol East many, many times at the Meet the People sessions to attend to the needs of the residents, because we have a rotation system in Pasir Ris-Punggol GRC. And sometimes the residents come and they say, "Oh, Minister Teo, you're here today. But actually I came to see Mr. Michael Palmer." And I don't feel insulted. In fact, I feel very, very happy to hear that. Because it means you, the residents, have confidence in Michael Palmer. That you prefer to see him than to see me. And I feel very happy about that. Because he has gained your confidence. He's gained your trust. And that is what I like to see. Michael is also served in many capacities in Parliament. That means he's contributed to government in Singapore beyond what he has done in our GRC and in our constituency. I've worked with him closely also because he's been a member of the Government Parliamentary Committee on Defence and Foreign Affairs, and also been chairman of the Government Parliamentary Committee on Defence and Foreign Affairs, where he has made very useful comments, kept me on my toes also, asking me difficult questions in Parliament. Why did we do this? How come that one didn't quite turn out the way it was supposed to, and so on. And we've had a good relationship in that parliamentary committee and in Parliament as well. So now that Punggol East is a single-member constituency, my colleagues in the GRC and Michael had a discussion. And we have decided that we'll continue to work closely together in partnership. Do many things together. But of course, Punggol East has the advantage that you can do things on your own too, without us, the rest of the GRC. We can only stand by and watch jealously as you go off on your own. The residents of Punggol East can be assured that we will work together as one town council. We have agreed that if we are all returned, if we are all re-elected, this is what we will do. So that we won't leave you out on your own, don't worry, to manage your own town council. We will continue to work together, look after your homes and your families, make sure that the value is maintained, that everything in your environment is maintained well. And, in fact, even before the boundaries were redrawn and Punggol East became a single-member constituency, already we had thought, now who is going to be our next town council chairman after the general election if we are re-elected? And we were already beginning to think that Michael might be the most suitable one. So even though we had Punggol East come out as a single-member constituency, we all decided, let's carry on. Have Michael continue as our town council chairman because we have confidence in him. So do you have confidence in him as your town council chairman? I'm glad to hear that. So this election is about your future and the future of your children and your grandchildren. I'm confident that you here, the voters of Punggol East, know who is the best person who can represent you. You know which is the party that will really work hard for you and look after you and your interests so please give your vote to the person whom you can trust and whom you worked with. Please give your vote to the party that you can trust and who has worked in your interests for so many years. So vote for Michael Palmer. Vote for the PAP. And secure the future for yourself and your family. Thank you very much.